This is Darcy Prince. This is another episode of another podcast episode. I've just finished up doing a little short, and I'm with somebody at the moment. He's the actor, so I'm just going to pass the mic over to him, and he's just going to introduce himself and talk about his art stuff.
Hi, thanks, Darcy. I'm Ravneet, a theatre actor, and I've done a few films in my life. Uh, Stage has always been my final destination. I've looked forward to performing all my life, starting from school days. I'm also a musician by hobby, so I started my life as an accompanist on percussions with the school choir, and played for a rock band in college called Spiritual Warfare. And one remembers me by a Bollywood film called Dear Dad. That's about it.
That's great.
I'm looking forward to more.
So, did you start your background in India?
Yes, I
Yeah.
did.
Okay. Um, would you want to tell me a bit what the art culture was like, where in India you were, to what it's like now, or how you got started and stuff like that?
Sure. Sure. Actually, I come from a defense family background, so we've spent time in almost every state in India. I was born in Himachal Pradesh, which is really up north, and then most of my college and schooling took place down south of India. One thing that connects India is music, and so as soon as I turned 5, my father put me into tabla classes. Tabla is a percussion Indian classical instrument, and my learning of music started with that particular instrument, and then from there I diversified into the harmonium, the congos, the guitar, the bass, and then I discovered the blues, uh, the chiclet circuit as they call it, and I discovered the blues harp and blues music. I got deeper into it, and as I progressed in life, and was leading a very comfortable life in the hotel industry, one day a friend of mine and I thought we should do something for the folk musicians in our country to get them some sort of a level platform to perform. And we formed a record label called Amar Ras Records. It's a folk world music record label in which we give artists opportunities to perform at various festivals around the world. So, having knowledge of the globe through my travel experience, we were able to get connections at various festivals. Like the Womex was one of the World Music Exposition is one of the main connectors for such sort of work. And well, it's been 15 years now. We've been running the music record label. We hold live concerts in Delhi, just trying to expose these people to the youngsters. So somehow trying to make it contemporary folk more accessible, affordable, and well, trying to make it sustainable for the artists to you know continue doing what they are doing in their field of music rather than do something which is not their specialization. Well, the journey's been very intriguing so far and interesting, full of discoveries, full of big-hearted people and small-hearted people, but we just keep going.
That's so cool. So, okay. Now, probably what I'm curious is well, for starters, how you find the Australian art scene in general, or your, I'm hungry, or at least your part in the Australian scene, and then compare it to what it's like to in India, like the differences and stuff. And with that, what's similar about each other.
Sure, sure. Uh, well, the Indian art scene is more cynical these days and full of hidden messages because obviously the right of speech, freedom of speech, is still not openly practiced, as they say, because the moment you so they always use references but never convey a message directly because it's all about the system and how the directors and writers are criticizing the system or exposing the system. While in Australia, I see there is more emphasis on equality, gender equality. I, in fact, have gone and checked out a few plays over here. One in particular was Cinderella. And I noticed, okay, apart from English, the more popular form of theatre over here would be like a form of dance. But in India, there's multiple languages, multiple states. So the form of expression changes from one state to the other, and that's what makes theater uh, attractive in India, because the directors these days are going crazy. They are mixing the old with the new and presenting it in a whole new way. Some old stories which we've rehearsed on stage in school so many times, you land up going to a theater and seeing a totally different perspective by a director. That fascinates me about India, and I like the boldness and straightforwardness as far as Australian art is concerned. And the actors over here are very talented, and the directors too, very open-minded. So it's been a fascinating knowledge experience for me.
Now, what about as a fan? Like when you're looking from outside to theatre, what I guess what got you started, interested, what you like about it, what do you get out of it, or different stages throughout life, if that makes sense. Yeah, like comparing yourself to when you were young to now, or when I started aging out, then you different. What got you interested in different parts of theatre and stuff, and
I think two words: instant gratification. Was the spark that actually kind of turned into a fire in myself, and it's the surprise factor and the improvising that takes place on stage. That was the second thing. So if you have a good presence of mind, you can accommodate yourself in any situation on stage. That was one very challenging aspect, but that was one reason why directors liked me also, because I could just improvise and help the scene out in case we were running into trouble. But other than that, theater has that wow factor, which, and it's a one take scenario, so it's more challenging than doing cinema, because cinema actors are paid to wait. And sometimes they keep waiting. The challenging part there is to get back into character just before your shot, because sometimes you could lose that feel. While in theater, you, as soon as the play starts, you start getting thicker and thicker into the character, depending on how long your role is. And then in the middle there's this crescendo, which explodes on stage, and then there's the curtains, the silence, and an applause. I think all that is just, it just gives you a natural high, all the adrenaline. So that's where I come from.
now just one more theatre question. We'll probably move on to something else. If okay, with particularly here in the West, it's probably Shakespeare. If somebody comes along and goes, "Hey, I just want to get interested in theatre. I don't know where to start, what to look at, or what to read, or whatever. How would you recommend play, or how would you recommend that person to get into it, plays or whatever?"
Well, I would recommend something very simple, like um, as you said, Shakespeare. If that's the connect to a person, then definitely that's the way to go. But I would recommend starting with something as simple as probably Simon Beckett's Waiting for Godot, which has fewer characters and easy to understand as a story, apart from the dialogues, apart from the role play that's been written out. So when a person connects to a playwright through the story in a single flow, the interest develops, because you're actually visualizing those scenes, and it makes it easier for you to understand where the story is heading and help understand the characters. So not just Simon Beckett. I mean, there is Barefoot in the Park by Neil Simon. Barefoot, it's just a story about two people. So stories like that can develop an interest for a person interested in theater.
Now you were talking about music earlier. Um, about folk music, but same sort of basis as the same sort of question for theatre. If people want to be more exposed to world music, or or music that you think should be out there a bit more, maybe talk about specific songs or favorite artist or what genres or whatever.
Sure.
As somebody as a fan looking outside in.
Sure. Actually, music has always been an integral part of theater, and nowadays they're presenting theater in some wild style, especially with so much music available. There's live musicians on stage, uh, you know, and there's a production that I recently, not recently, it's almost been 13 years, a production called the Manganiyar Seduction. It's a musical with Mangniyars are basically a community of singers in India who sing in return for alms. Like, you get food from someone's house, so you go in front of a person's house and you sing a song, and as a thank you for blessing their home with music, they are given something in return to eat. So a gentleman called Mr. Royston Abel, who's a very famous director from a theatre director from the National School of Drama in India, has produced and directed this show called The Mangniyar Seduction. It involves a stage which is 25 feet by 40 feet and has 38 Mangniyars sitting in small little cubby holes. And each one's got one unique instrument from Rajasthan, which is a state in India. And they basically perform a 62-minute composition in unison. It's just mind blowing, and it's an audio visual extravaganza. So every time a particular Manganiyar is singing, his cubby hole goes has lights around him, and that comes on. And towards the end, when they're all singing, these lights kind of create a beautiful mixture of music and lights thrown out to the audience. It's just unbelievable. So that particular composition and that production is something that I will remember for a very long time. People like him have also produced um, productions like uh, 100 snake charmers, which is about 100 snake charmers playing that bean. It's called the bean. It's like a little trumpet that they use to entice snakes with, and that was again quite a mesmerizing show. And then there was one which I saw called The Kitchen. It was about one of the South Indian home kitchens in which a couple is having disagreements, and they're taking it out on each other by cooking. And there's music playing all the time. There are these Kerala drummers sitting all around, and the show goes in the middle. They actually prepare a preparation called uh, it's like semia, a Swedish, and they serve a portion of that out to each audience while they leave. So that was another amazing production that I experienced. So things like that have only pushed the limits of theater and music ahead. So the sky is the limit these days.
That's so cool. Never heard of something like that. Um, Now you and I just did a little film together. Um, Before you go into the dive of your part in filmmaking or acting in film, um, again, same sort of basis. Talk about what got you as a fan. What did you enjoy watching personally, or specific movies you just want to recommend or talk about from a fan point of view. And after we'll talk about you as an 18 film and all that. Yeah, no worries.
Well, as a fan, uh, I've always followed some of the legends. Well, when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of Enrico and his Wild Wild West movies before I moved on to The Godfather, and then I got stuck onto people like Robert De Niro and Anthony Hopkins, Anthony Quinn. I love war movies until I saw Saving Private Ryan. After that, I started hating war movies, but that was a well-made movie. Spielberg, obviously, you can't take a step without him. But The Godfather 1, 2, and 3 has been a very important foundation for me to understand acting and understand the director's perspective. Al Pacino and his movies have had a very deep impact on me. When I was searching through some work on in acting in Sydney, I came across your ad in Facebook, and that's how I touched base with you. And you, without any question, sent me the script, which made it even more easy for me because I loved the script. I loved your writing, and certain dialogues which you had written were pretty hard hitting, and right from the word go. Yeah, like if you use the word but when you believe in freedom, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And even Even the paradise line is very deep. So I immediately connected with the character, probably because I mean I've lived my life now. I'm what 50 years old, 50 years young, I would say. But and after having lived a happy family life, and I'm much of a loner these days. I mean, except for the fact that I live with my mother. But when it's my time, and it's usually for a considerable period of time. And I could connect to the protagonist, the drag in this case, quite easily, and it was a go for me. And there we go. One thing led to the other, and here we are. And the shooting location was extraordinary. I enjoyed my time out there, and I hope I've lived up to your expectations,
Yeah,
Darcy.
it's fun. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. With the last few lines you just said. Do you have any stories or adventures you got into, or any life lessons, or anything you want to say to the world, or anything like that nature, or any stories you want to tell? Or
All I want to say is that
yeah,
you got to believe in timing,
yeah,
and never be impatient. When I was young, I was full of energy and excitement, and sometimes a role did not require that much energy, but I would still give it, and sometimes make mistakes because the director's brief would be very very clear. So I mean, having stars in your eyes is a good thing, but at the same time, a little bit of maturity wouldn't harm you. So take it easy. It's always good to understand what your role requires out of you and what the director wants from you, and downplay it a bit. Always downplay it a bit, so that if there is any extra requirement, the director tells you, like, pump it up a bit. But yeah, as far as trying to be in front of the camera is concerned, or acting is concerned, it's best to downplay.
sweet. Yeah, so just give me a sec. Is there anything you want to say, or
All good, Darcy.
okay?
Thanks for having me.
That's all right.